Hi, True Nature Medicine Tribe. It is Sarah Jane from Access Your True Nature with your fertile dose, I think, of body mind medicine. I'm here to empower you to be your own medicine, and I want to just check in with you all and just see how your week has been, and more importantly, are you taking some space that you perhaps desire and require for yourself to just play a little bit more for the sake of playing? I think that's something I've really been exploring a lot this week with the passing of my cat and all the seriousness of business as usual that's going on. And I recognize that I do take myself very seriously at times, and I want to just remind you, as I remind me myself every day, that we have to, you can't go get over pain. You have to go into pain and make fertilizer out of the crap that's going around. And sometimes the things that we think are inconvenient, or just think about it. I know a lot of people that make great money out of manure, and so can you, if you can just see the gift in all the things that you think are crap right now. Because you know what? Pain doesn't want to be fixed. Pain wants to be fashioned, and the only way that you can change that is to start looking at how trauma is a gift. You can't change what's happened to you, but you can certainly go into it and choose from there and show up and go there and just look at what is the gift. So just for today, could you just feel into some of the parts of your life where perhaps you are feeling pain, and allow yourself to feel it, to find the healing in there, that you can't heal what you can't feel. And you're too vital, you're too alive to be shut down and thinking that you have to figure it out all by yourself. The world's waiting for you to heal. That's how you get to play a bigger part in contributing to the healing of everyone and humanity and the planet, as only you can. And to tell your story with a whole heart. And there's that funny thing that I always look at with the horses of leading, where you can lead yourself into what is possible. And in order for us to leave, I really believe it has to start within. That we have to go inside and see ourselves as leading our own way, because people can't see you as a leader if you don't own that. And your expertise and time and potential is valuable. And I have this conversation every day with amazing women who have God-given talents that they can't see because they're under such a big pile of crap. And the thing is that nobody has that combination of talents that you have. And your personal and professional stories, all the work you've done in that field, your PhD of life experiences, make you exceptional and miraculous. And only you can do what you do. Can you hear the birds? The way that you do it. So please don't sell yourself short. I love the thumbs. Give me some more. Tell me if this is landing with you, to lead yourself into what you came here to do, and give other people the same opportunity to do that. Because what I know is that when you give yourself permission to hold space for you and you alone, as your most, make yourself a priority and function from the deeper level of yourself. Because when you can see and own the true impact of the container that you hold for yourself, that's when you're no longer involved in the stories of why you're telling yourself you can't play or succeed or make money out of manure, because you're trapped in the suffering and the contraction of all the reasons and justifications why you think you don't matter. And you don't have to do that on your own. In fact, you can't do it on your own. You have to get out of your head and into that space of presence and stay there. Just stay there and trust. Have a little faith that the universe does have your back, and start to be rather than the doing all the time. Could you just stay in that space and give yourself permission to say yes to you, to be deeply happy, to heal, and to just stay present in whatever it is that you're feeling and the space that you're holding for yourself. Because the more you give yourself permission to do that, the more you give other people space to stay in their own space of what is possible. But you have to have that space for you first. That's where the wisdom and permission is. And that's when you get to experience and remember your true nature, where your heart lies and what you came here to do. And the more you do that, the more available you're going to be for the things and the people and the opportunities in your life. And the more other people are going to get to claim their own happiness. You know, you can't get there by projecting pain out in the world or matching pain with pain. Hi, CJ. You know, I just know when I hurt, everything hurts. And that's that abusive cycle of trauma that we're wanting to transmute, to feel into the pain and making it something that is purposeful. It's intentional in its purpose. And that's how we enable and create out of trauma to create a sustainable planet. And we can connect more into the energy of play then. And I don't know about you, but I want to live in a world where there's happy people. Don't you? You know, every day I speak to women that are exhausted and they're burnt out and empty and they don't even know who they are anymore. And they're just rushing from one place to the other, from one crisis to another, that are wanting to change their trauma into dharma, because it's a fantasy to think that if we just keep chasing and pushing that we're going to be happy. We're waiting. We're just putting the suffering into action, and we all know the body follows the mind. So instead of being truly rooted into the intention where there is no agenda, no expectation, I know it's hard because we've been taught to expect things. But when you just choose to stay in that space, hey Jocelyn, of intentional creativity, you know, we have to be willing to go there and to connect into that space and have relationship to what it is exactly that we are intending to bring into service, of how we're showing up in our life to serve our greatest, highest good as the greatest, highest good of the whole. And when you can see yourself in that space, not imposing, you know, not from thinking about what you need to do. My cat is here. But because you're choosing it, you know, that's living a purpose-driven life. And how can you sort of step in and deeply root into service for the highest good in the world when, you know, when you're compromising yourself? Come and say hello. Oh, she's my beautiful cat. Say hi. You know, this cat is connected to everything. You know, they're all here to tell us that it's time to dissolve those vows of poverty and chastity and martyrdom and lay them down so that they can start to transmute, because you're going in the pain and you're willing to be in more service to yourself, because when you do that, the more you can show up and serve others to, you know, to change that, and you get to stop the woundings and the traumas and that sort of root cause of suffering, of feeling separate from the whole, so that you can be in the space of fullness energetically. You know, I just believe that we need to be willing to have money, to take care of ourselves in the exchange of energy, to own and claim that you're worth it and that what you have. And you know what, when we do that as women, we're powerful. You know, we get to change things for the better. Running water, it's bigger than all of us. You know, feeding animals. Just, can you see the connection to those that are against that part of loving, and love the ones that are stuck in cruelty and unkindness and doing crazy things in the world? And just open yourself to source energy. Just open yourself to be in that space of collaboration with the creator, with the universe. You know, I'm passionate about this because I know the more of us that do this, the more change we're going to create, the sooner we get to heal the world. And I see this so much with speakers too. You know, it's kind of funny. I never used to want to do these videos because I didn't look right and I wasn't put together and it wasn't professional. And I hear so many people that get up and they speak and they're talking at you. They're not talking to you. And I'm grateful to say that I got over that ability to be seen just as I am, authentic, messy. I don't have all the answers, but I don't know, have you ever noticed when you're in a room, for example, with a speaker and there's this disconnection because they're not talking to you. They're not speaking to you. They're wondering, how do I look and how do I sound? And it's all about me. And that's why we feel disconnected and alone. And for me, telling your story has to be co-creation. My story is your story. You know, that's the heart space where we get to hold and see and witness each other and be in co-creation with each other, with the universe. And that's your lifeline. That's your line of living into your legacy and co-creating from there. It's collaboration for a reason. We can't do it in a vacuum. We're living in a multi-dimensional space, you know, and we can't have connection with the people that we desperately want to connect in with. You know, you might have everything else, the good looks or the big name or millions of followers, connection. Okay, I'm back. So I was getting all on a rant about people that speak at you rather than speak with you and through you. So, you know, anytime you ever speak, whether that's internal dialogue or outward to other people, just know that you're collaborating, you're in co-creation. That's the story of living a human experience. Oh, you love my cat. Thank you. Yeah, you know, we can't do this on our own. We have to be in relation. Otherwise we have nothing, you know. That's how we heal the separation sickness. That's how we get to come back to our hearts and remember that we are all a piece. We all are part of this beautiful web that has no weaver. That's powerful to own and claim that and be willing for things to match in alignment, in congruence to what you want to see as leaving the world in a better place than you found it. And, you know, I'm always looking at ways to become more succinct and clear. I don't always get that right. You know, a lot of the time these are ramblings of just whatever is coming through me. And I often feel like a hot mess. But I'm caring less and less about it. I'm caring less and less about speaking well or coming with some motivational manifesto. I walk my talk, and I'm leaning into that more and more, to touch people's lives and loving myself more and holding that space for me to know that I am enough and that in some way my work is mattering. It is making a difference. It's creating a positive impact. And I'm so blessed and grateful that I'm connected in with a tribe that is aligned and congruent with their story. They're leading authentic lives. They're moving into more purpose in their pathway. And they're letting go of the controls of what that has to look like. You know, there's nothing to prove. You don't need to get up on a big stage and talk to a teleprompter and strut your stuff and be disconnected from the people that have come there to receive and feel that they've been touched and that there is connection. And a lot of the time they make me, I don't know about you, but it makes me feel really stupid. So if anyone ever does that to you, please leave. Because that's not connection. You know, whether that's a one-on-one conversation or whether you're in a group or you're on a huge stage, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, I want the heart connection. You know, I don't want to become what's being projected or at me or spoken to me as being stupid, because that's something that has often carried a big charge for me over my life. What if we could just be the best and claim that, you know, hold space for being the best version of yourself that you came here to be. You know, another funny one is fake it till you make it, and that's a funny one because I always used to say that. And now it's like, what if we could just know that we are learning and leaning into becoming the greatest version of I am and doing that well, all of it. You know, asking how can I practice that art of connection, of authenticity, of deep heart selling. Hello, my boy. To just be the best while we're becoming who we came here to be. You know, I've always kind of done that. I'd say yes first and then go find out how I could do it better than I could ever imagine possible, or that person could ever imagine me delivering. You know, so would you be willing to be the best that you came here to be? What if we could start treating ourselves and each other as the best? and see them into existence instead of the opposite. You know, are you doing that now? Because to me, that's the ultra presence of heart connection. It's owning your own space. And I want you to have that space where you can be healthy in your body and in your heart, and be present, not stupid. You know, stupidity is just where we cut off our own knowing what we know. We stop trusting our gut intuition, our body's innate intelligence, and trusting somebody else that actually has nothing vested in your outcome of how you're living your life. So could you look at how you're speaking to yourself, and then speak that story into all the spaces that you're holding for other people, whether that's other people, whether that's your community. Could you just reach out and touch somebody that they feel felt, and that you get to feel that touch as your own of what you want? You know, what would that feel like for you to bring your presence, your gift into the world? Because you are too vital and alive to be shut down in the stupidity and pretending that you don't know what you know. And then you start to live into your true nature, because you're trusting what you know and what's light and true for you as your gift. So, you know, what could that look like for you to show up as the greatest version of yourself and just feel into the parts of you, so that you get to heal the wounded parts that ever doubted that you were not miraculous. And then you go and just create this beautiful tsunami, this ripple effect of change, where other people get to see the greatness of themselves because you're doing the best that you can. And that's the fire starter, right? That's about making money out of manure. That's about transmuting all the places where you've dumped crap on yourself and buried yourself under erroneous, stinking, fuming, steaming piles of crap that probably didn't even belong to you in the first place. So what if you could lean into that with more kindness, more co-creation, to start asking for ways that you can serve yourself from a place of the best meal that you've ever had, and start to taste life and smell life, and you breathe life into those parts that are ready to come into the world, and for you to be able to tell your story with a whole heart. So I hope I touched you today. I never quite know what I'm going to talk about on these, but I'm going to make it short while I still have a connection. And what are you going to do today from a place of being the space, the container, for all the greatness and goodness and love that is and of you to come through into the world, so that we can create a totally different reality, and a reality where, as that John Lennon song goes, imagine all the people, you know, living in harmony. We're in a month of looking at how to transmute disharmony, and use the natural law of chaos, that the ebb and the flow of things can come through in a way that is kindness, and not buy into the imposed projections of fear and hesitancy and scarcity and doubt that's being bombarded at us all the time. My sister lives in Florida, and I know there is a big storm coming that way, and there's a lot of people evacuating and leaving their homes, and it just brings to the surface everything that we're afraid of, that we feel like we have no control over. And I just want to say, if you're ever in a situation where somebody's telling you what to do, whether it's, you know, a storm warning or an evacuation warning, or anything, to trust your gut, follow your intuition, and ask, you know, what is required right now in order to change this, and can we just send a huge, massive energetic contribution to the natural order out there, that the universe does have our back, and nature is doing her absolute best to bring about more balance on the planet. And sometimes it doesn't always work out for us, because we've been out of congruence with living in harmony and in balance with the planet and all the other beautiful beings that we share it with. So what if we could do that from a place of service to self, to reclaim and honor the parts of you that are asking for more balance and more harmony to show up? Because it starts with you. It starts with you planting a seed in that manure and tending to your garden, so that the inner story becomes your outer story of change as only you can. Because remember, the world is not waiting for someone like you. The world is waiting for you and what only you can give to the world. So take care. What do you want me to talk about, CJ? Talk more about the natural flow. Oh, chaos. All right, I can go a little bit longer. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so, you know, when we look at chaos, I think, again, it's one of those words that we've misabused a lot, where we see chaos as something that we don't want in our lives. But if you just think about it on an internal of your body, the chaos is actually what creates the resilience. Our little cells are dying, they're regenerating, we get new cells to come in. It can look pretty chaotic. If you've ever looked at your blood, or you've ever looked at a virus or a microbe under a microscope, the movement of how the little lymphocytes, the phagocytes, come in and they choose to devour the threads. There's a lot of chaos and agitation in the movement of it. And yet there is absolute calm and order in the process of that cell knowing that it has come into being with a specific purpose, which in that case would be of defending defending the body against any perceived threat. And everything knows its place. So for me, chaos is a natural law that we have created, an unside. So unchaos, to me, it's like the opposite of black is not white. So the opposite of chaos is actually unchaos, right? It's the part that you can't see, where if you stop resisting or trying to control it and let it do its job, like that little phagocyte or lymphocyte that knows how to identify the threat, and go and attack it and do its job. And then the other ones, knowing, again, it's in a community of what can look like random patterns that are actually chaos. And we see this in nature all the time, in the duplicating patterns. And I think we're the only crazy ones that actually duplicate dis-ease rather than out-create, learn from the chaos, to identify, maybe I don't want to choose that again. Maybe I want to move in a different direction and see what the effect will be, rather than being at the effect of pretending that it doesn't exist. So I think I could talk about that forever, CJ, but does that sort of make sense? Or is there more there that you'd like? Yeah, you know, chaos is the natural law of creating harmony and balance, of shifting energy from places where we're building up a lot of pressure. It has to release somewhere, and we're the only ones on the planet that are interfering with the natural laws of chaos. It can look pretty chaotic. If you've ever seen you know, a hunt where the lions are running into a herd of deer that are grazing, the movement, when the whole, that morphogenetic resonance of the whole actually are alerted to the danger because one senses it, it looks pretty chaotic. You know, they're running all over the place, and the lions are running in their own directions, but they're very specific on their intent. Their intention is to bring down dinner for the night. And I think this is another part, you know, I'm kind of leading into this, of where we can start to create more balance and harmony in collaboration with nature, in knowing that we actually are the guardians of the planets rather than the destroyers of it. To look at the Pachamama tribes say this really, really well. And one of my friends, Sage, told me this story, that when she was with them, the Pachamama women, asked, why does the Western woman not tell the men when to stop, when they've had enough? Because it's the women's role in the tribe of the Pachamama, and this happens in a lot of indigenous tribes here, is that when they have enough, when there is enough, there is abundance, they have the shelter, they have enough food, they tell the men when to stop cutting down the trees and when to stop fishing and hunting. And we in the Western world have forgotten that that is part of our guardianship. That's part of being a steward of the earth, especially in the role of women who know how to birth creation and plant seeds and nurture things into life, that it's our job to tell the men when to stop. And that's kind of how we can start to contribute back into going with the natural flow of the chaotic nodes, to know that, you know, it's been really, really windy where I live today. And I'm grateful for that, because the wind is playing its role in pollinating, right? Because it's spring here and all the trees are in flower, and we need the pollen just as much, and we need the bees to pollinate the bees. So instead of going into the fear, like this latest thing with this mosquito, I forget what it was called, you know, David Icke calls it, tells it really, really like it is, problem, reaction, solution. So a lot of the powers that be in the West create the problem. Oh my gosh, vaccinate your children. Oh my gosh, we need to spray and wipe out all these mosquitoes that have mutated and become these super bugs that are, you know, devastating and, you know, harming people. Then they wait for the reaction, right? So let's show some scary pictures of the storm or of these disfigured children, or Ebola was another one. And then they wait for that, wait for the uprising, and step in with a solution, rather than trusting that nature creates these, you know, we see this with locusts, and they talk about this in biblical days of the swarm of locusts. That's the chaotic balance of nature. Nature is intentional in knowing that something is a little bit off, just as we know, because our body gives us feedback all the time of when, and we feel that as pain, right? We feel that as sensation in our body that's intense when we're not listening to the body nudges. And hello, princess. Oh, my cats are coming out. When we're not listening to that, we get smacked, and then we say, oh my God, oh, the shit hit the fan, you know, my life is chaos. Rather than looking at that agitation as a wake-up call to say, hey, something's out of balance, and if you just stop resisting the change and you let go of the controls, I know that we are in co-creation with the divine or the universe or God or creator energy, that we get out of the dis-ease and back into the ease of knowing that this too shall pass, that everything is just temporary, and we prolong the pain and the suffering by thinking that we need to control it. Making some sense? I know I'm moving all over the place. Yeah, moving in rhythm with nature. We've forgotten that we are part of nature. Instead, we are trying to have dominion and control over nature. And we hear about this, the chemtrails, how we're all affecting the natural weather patterns. We're in the middle of a huge drought in Johannesburg at the moment, and it's devastated. It's devastated farmers. You know, we're wiping out the bees, like I said, with that problem reaction solution of spraying more pesticides. The earth is doing her best to recover from all the things that we've done to poison her. You know, how we've raped the earth of minerals, and we're upsetting a lot of the deeper layers of them, right down to the molten lava core. Of course we are creating the earthquakes, and some of it is natural, but how much of that are we contributing to our own chaos as far as being inconvenient, right? That you know, we need to be in reverence of the tides. We need to be in reverence of the changes, the natural changes of a river, the way that a river flows and changes direction. And if we're going to build our houses too close to the banks of the river, or too close to the edge of a cliff, or too close to the sea, and we're not in reverence and honoring of the natural tides and shifts of the chaos of nature as a natural law, then we wouldn't be creating so much of the trauma, drama, and emergency that we create in the natural environmental factors that are killing the planet right now. So yeah, how can we move more into the ebb and the flow of knowing that with every inhale and exhale we're changing something, and rather than be in cause and effect as something that we feel fearful of, because we can only control how we choose to live, right? We can only control how we get to choose to show up in the world, and we can create out of choice that's bigger than us, or we can create from a space of destruction. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for joining me, CJ. Hi, Tracy, my beautiful friend. I love you guys. Thank you for showing up on these little Facebook lives with me. Tell me what's coming up for you, and how you're going to correct your vision and open up and have a wider lens of how we can all start by changing our own internal stories, healing from trauma, so that we stop the cause and effect of pushing trauma out into the world. All right. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye. Mwah.